Thank you, everyone, for listening to Soul Talk with host Jeremy McDonald, the author of Peace Be Still. You can check out more about our shows or about Jeremy at soultalkradio.org and jeremymcdonald.net. And now for our show.
Hello and good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for listening to Soul Talk Radio. And we have a reoccurring guest coming on the show today, Dr. Joe Gallenberger, who I've gotten to know over the last 6 months pretty well. And his work is... we're going to be talking about his meditation CD, Liquid Luck, today. And I'm pretty excited about having him on the show because we talked about his book, Inner Vegas, back in October. And that was actually the very eye-opening as far as, bringing in manifestation of your world and stuff like that. But the Liquid Luck CD, we're going to touch more on here on the show. But how are you doing today, Dr. Gallenberger?
I'm doing great. We got some rainy weather here in Carolinas, but nice temperatures, so we're all set for Christmas.
Yeah, I was talking to a client yesterday in North Carolina, and she was telling me it was in the 60s. I was like, that's not what it's supposed to be like in North Carolina at Christmas time.
Yeah, that's about what we're having, and that's okay with me with lots of loved ones are traveling, so it makes it easy.
Absolutely. So I just want to touch on, we kind of touched on this in the last interview, but you started off with the Monroe Institute back in the early 90s, if I'm correct, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, probably late 80s. I've been a trainer there about 23 years.
So that started you on, of course, HemiSync and all that kind of stuff. This is a question I didn't ask you the last time. What made this teaching click for you? I mean, most people study for many, many years and they get it sort of, and then they get a little bit more. And of course, we're always growing throughout life and learning new things. What started making HemiSync work for you, or in your case, what made you realize Liquid Luck was working for you and things started manifesting to you? Because that's kind of the nature of your message, is that we can create and co-create our world and pull in what we need for our world and create our own luck for us. So I just wanted to...
First of all, I think what kept me going with Monroe Institute was that I did find the binaural beat technology they have called HemiSync to be really effective in quickly moving you into deep meditative states. And perhaps just as importantly, that there was no need to adopt any dogma whatsoever, so that atheists and Buddhists and fundamentalists and all kinds of different people could go there, feel very respected, and work on expanding their awareness of themselves. And I found that really important for me. I don't tend to like any real heavy belief systems. So in my explorations there, my first efforts, I guess, would be more ET phone home, to get out of body, to go connect with spirit. And after doing that and having a lot of deep experiences that way, really began to wonder how we could use those high energies to improve things here on Earth. And that led me to this whole area of psychokinesis and manifestation.
Well, that's awesome. So the approach of the Monroe Institute is about the mind and the science aspect of it, and how we actually create these out-of-body experiences and change our perception, I guess, would be the way to look at it. Because we often get caught up in our dogma of whatever our beliefs are, and then we only get one aspect of it. We don't get to see the whole picture. So the Monroe Institute focuses in on changing that. Am I correct?
Yes, and Bob was really big on finding out for yourself, to not easily adopt somebody else's belief systems, but to really look and see what you could directly experience, particularly on spiritual dimensions, for yourself. And he was pretty brilliant in providing just enough guidance to do that without putting in any heavy belief systems of his onto people. So I think you're correct there, and it was quite a bit initially under Bob's watch, mental travel, if you will, But because of that freedom that he offered, what a lot of people found is they were also connecting with very deep energies of the heart, praising, gratitude, love, compassion, those kinds of things, as they did their explorations.
Yeah, I think that's important. I mean, I've found in my own studies that we often, my upbringing was very much, we're focused in on what men and women are telling us, but then our own soul, or whatever, our inner heart, or whatever it is that is wanting us to go into another direction or try a new experience, and then we don't do it because we're stuck on whatever it is men and women are telling us. So therefore, we're not bringing in that, that happiness and that rejoicefulness and stuff like that, which is, I guess, the nature of what dogma is. Just gets you stuck up, clogged up or blocked up, or whatever we want to refer to it as.
And I think, with that, there's often a good bit of fear that, to go where no one went before, to go against what your tribe believes, those kind of things. Right. And I guess one of the biggest brilliance of the Monroe system is it's very, very good at reducing fear, just gently letting it melt away. And that allows us to see much more clearly what might be possible for us.
It's phenomenal because I actually did, when I first got the Liquid Up CD, I probably about a good week, I laid on my couch and put my headphones on, which I recommend everybody, if you're going to do HemiSync, definitely use your headphones because that's what makes it the most effective. And I was telling you before we came on the show, I actually felt like I was in a liquid golden river that was flowing through my body, and I can feel it flowing in and out. And at one point, I lost sensation of your voice, during the meditation. But I've seen some significant stuff happening where I've always considered myself a pretty lucky person. But it's just I've shed away some old things, and now I have a tremendous amount happening, which is in flow with what I would want to do in the first place. So, to kind of give you a confirmation of where, how effective that is, which you already, you already know. But
well, I try to, find a way to summarize a couple decades of experience in this psychokinesis manifestation area, energy healing as well, and that was a little bit challenging. I've done about 67 Inner Vegas Adventure workshops where people learn this experientially during that. I wrote the Inner Vegas Creating Miracles, Abundance, and Health book. But to try to really distill it down to its basic contents so that in a half hour or so a person could really experience this for themselves, how love creates miracles. And to do that, had to slip under the usual dragons of negative emotion, limiting beliefs, and other things that might be in the way, and really generate high, fine energy quickly. That HemiSync we talked about is a binaural beat technology. I use a slightly different one in Liquid Lug, but it's very helpful to do that quick slipping underneath all the things that usually is in the way. And I got reports within hours of the CD being released that really warmed my heart, though. Even in the first day, somebody solved a complex hardware-software interface problem in a lab that had resisted efforts for 2 years, and another person reported selling a home that had been on the market for months an hour after he used Liquid Luck. And one I like a lot was a 70-year-old woman had been looking for a four-leaf clover for 70 years on 3 different continents, no luck. And the day after using Liquid Luck, she found her four-leaf clover. So we've had...
oh, wow.
Yeah, we've had things, body, mind, and spirit, things in relationship, health, finances, definitely, just with even a one-time listen to the CD, which has been great.
Yeah, that's kind of what happened with me. Is I had a contract. I'm a contract trainer at times when corporate trainer, and the contract I had ended early, And so then, a couple other things ended, but I always look at that as the universe, flowing. It's always ever flowing in and out and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So because very shortly after I did the liquid luck and that happened, some people would say, well, that's not luck. Well, it was, because it's freed up my time to get a tremendous amount of stuff done, and something I would have never done within about a week. I found an event planner, a friend of mine that's an event planner approached me, and I've been wanting to do this gathering for probably 5 years. Well, we found the space to have it at. We got it for the rental, which is the price for it. We got it for was unbelievably cheap for this huge place. And so you have to think about it, that's just really operating in that sense that, the liquid luck definitely brought my mind or my paradigm into a different level of consciousness. So it's, thank you.
Good, and it sounds like you helped it out a lot by, quote, not freaking out when certain things dried up, and opening, in your wisdom, knowing that means the universe is preparing for even something better. That's a great attitude to have that happen. But it's been there's a fellow who's a scientist, engineer, a brilliant designer, who's become a friend of mine in the area of audio equipment, and he's I think in his 70s now, and his business has been a little bit rough over the last couple of years, and he's so filled with ideas he can't sleep very easily, so I sent him Liquid Luck as a relaxing thing as well, and orders started coming in for hundreds of speakers, but he also got new ideas for a whole new line of speakers and other kind of inventions, and it just seems to be able to trigger kind of moving into a new level, but it sure helps if a person is positive to begin with and trusting in the universe to begin with. That really makes things go well.
Yeah, and I found when we're in that flow that new things like Liquid Luck came in to even help me even on a greater scale. So it's I've done all this study and work myself, but I find that what you learned over 20 some odd years of working has helped me, and then maybe one day we'll be sitting down talking and having coffee, and I might say something that sparks something in you. So that to me, that's the flow of how things work, and nobody's ever lacking anything. And so, but what I find, what I want to touch on in here is that this technology, it almost things. I mean, you understand the brain better than I do because of your background, but it seems almost like it's changing neuron patterns from the one thought process to the next. Like I had, we a lot of, because of the way we were raised, some people might have been raised by parents that lived in the Depression or grandparents that lived in the Depression, and so their mindset is of, I don't have enough, because maybe they lived through the losing of their jobs and their homes and that kind of stuff. And then, because of this last economic thing that we just went through, kids that were raised by these parents or lived through that 20 years from now, they might be operating from that sense. So to me, that forms a neuron pattern in the brain that says, I don't have enough, or goes back to that old pattern. And so it seems to me like this CD changes that, or starts to begin to change that, those old thought patterns or feelings or whatever, energy, whatever we want to refer to it as.
Yes, it is. It's pretty technologically sophisticated, which unfortunately we live in a time, and this technology can take a person who's usually operating, as most of our culture does, from a quite strong, heavy left brain place. And left brain tends to be associated with past and future orientation, logical, sequential things, ego, and move that person within minutes into a more whole brain state where the right brain is speaking, and that softening of the ego also begins to bring in the wisdom of the heart. And so we use a technology, strangely enough, to actually become into a much more elevated spiritual and heart-based state of consciousness.
So it brings you into center, or balances you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Very cool. Well, I know that years ago when I learned about HemiSync, somebody said to me, they handed me a CD, and I can't remember honestly which one it was. I think it was called Dream or something like that. And I had been meditating probably like 4 or 5 years at that point, and she said, I said, well, I've been meditating about 4 or 5 years. She goes, you need to use this. She goes, if you ever wanted to learn how to get as deep as a Tibetan Buddhist monk in meditation, this will do it. And basically what she's saying is that because they go down to the theta levels of brainwave patterns and stuff like that. So I did, and she was right. I was, I changed my way of meditating to where it used to take me a good 20 minutes to get into a kind of a relaxed state because I had to relax the whole day and get everything. After I did that, within seconds I can go into that theta state because of what HemiSync's done. So it changed my whole way of looking at it. But I don't know if you've found this as people use HemiSync or your liquid light, they start changing, but they might actually go through a big letting go process. Like for me, I let go of friends, I let go with any spiritual practice. I think that happens. But people just didn't relate on the same level that I did. Sometimes it was hurtful, sometimes it wasn't. But
I'll comment on a few things you're saying. I was up at Monroe teaching one time, and we had some elderly Buddhist monks in the group, and they came down one morning just joyfully tearful, saying, it's amazing, you Americans, that you can bring people with technology where it takes us a decade to get. And they were very appreciative of the technology and felt like they verified that it helped them also touch back with states that they get to with a different kind of discipline. Liquid luck, again, is pretty simple, and it's designed to slip under some things. If a person kept doing that, you're right, there's likely, if your intention is very clear and sincere, that you want to expand to be the most you can be, to really fulfill your potential, you may need to shift social relationships, you may need to shift job, you may need to shift beliefs, many things to make room for the new you, if you will. So, some people don't know, but meditation, for example, can even cause some depression, quote, because with that greater awareness, one might look and see a very unsatisfying relationship and feel stuck in it and be a little depressed until they figure a good way out or a good way to change that. And sometimes that's just doing things differently. But sometimes it involves, letting something go.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely. I noticed that happen over time, and I don't know. Now looking back, you just kind of look at that was part of the process. Of course, when you're going on through it, it doesn't feel like that, but it's just a learning lesson as part of your spiritual growth or your growth as a being or a soul. I just find it interesting that the same thing, years and years of practice, that I was going through this, and with HemiSync and another product that I've used, I saw things just collapsing, or like almost like you take down one tree, and then that's the main tree, and it pulls down all the little trees, all those old, all the roots are coming down at the same time. So.
But in fact, I think you have some dominion and some influence. So I'm a guy who spent about a year in a body cast. So when I was 21, I've learned to say, small lessons, please, I'll pay attention. And also I'm willing to learn by abundance and joy, because a lot of people don't pay attention until there's pain. And so you can begin to engineer your consciousness journey to include a lot more delight and unexpected, wonderful surprise, and not so much of the negative drama.
Yeah.
Which even the negative drama, as you're saying, turns out positive if you continue to use it, because it'll take you some good place. But you can also go through without not having to be quite as uncomfortable.
Right. Yeah, I started calling, jokingly, life Disney World metaphysics. And I was doing that because if I looked at even the things that I would consider to be negative as something that were going to make me grow, and then half the time, because I use mirrors a lot, I look at everything that happens around me as the mirror of what I need to look at of myself, as an opportunity, as opposed to being a right or wrong. Then I do a lot of laughing at myself, actually. Laughing meaning, wow, I can't believe I just made that a big deal. And so you giggle a lot. And so then life becomes like this amazing roller coaster, for those of you that like roller coasters. And like the feeling I got in Liquid Luck, there was this flow, the ocean wave coming in and out, in and out. And at times I've even had friends come back in my life that left. Because they had to go off and do what they needed to do, and then whatever. And then we all came back together.
Yeah. So, I don't know, at this point, we've been talking a while. Some people might go, where can I get that Liquid Luck? And it's not that, it's easy to get, but it only is available in one place. At this point, it's not on Amazon, but you can get it at my website, which the easiest way to get to my website is just innervegas.com, this title of the book, Innervegas, and then .com, and look under products. There's a tab on the top, and Liquid Luck's available from there.
So is that the technology? That's why you call your business Sync Creation? Because of the HemiSync, and it's just a little bit different than the HemiSync? Is what you're talking about?
Yes, so you're correct. I have workshops called, and a home study course called Sync, S-Y-N-C, and then the word creation, and the sync comes from the HemiSync idea, and creation is from the manifesting idea.
Very cool. So you're syncing your life together in unison, bringing it into oneness, I guess some people would call it. Very cool. Very cool. So let's touch a little bit, because you don't just have the Liquid Luck CD out there. You have your Inner Vegas book out there, and then you, last time I talked to you, you were just got back from Las Vegas. You do workshops in a Vegas hotel. And if you guys go to Dr. Gallenberger's Facebook page, you'll see pictures of him literally winning the slot machines. So how does that work with your workshops? I mean, obviously they're learning how to use psychokinesis and different things. So can we talk just a little bit about what those workshops are about and how they?
Sure. Well, Jeremy, I got started from being interested in energy healing, being able to touch someone, take away their headache, and then found that to be the same energy as psychokinesis in science, where matter is affected by your energy, things like bending metal, growing seeds in your hand in minutes, those kind of things. And I went to major university lab and was a subject in some psychokinesis experiments. And by the time I left there, I was convinced that this was a fact and it was real. And I was looking around for a place to practice, to get kind of a black belt in PK, if you will. And Las Vegas came to be the ideal place because the dice are guaranteed to be neutral, and the slot machines are much like other computers and electronic equipment are influenceable by this energy. So I went out for about 5 years on my own and found I would go into very high altered states, being able to see through physical matter, etc., and be able to manifest what I wanted, roll 9 nines in a row on the dice or whatever it would be. And then I began to teach, and as I mentioned, I've done, I think it's 67 now, Inner Vegas Adventures, and we go out and we send a preparation manual ahead of time. It's a small group, 16 only, and people come out, we meditate, we talk about how to do this, how to hold energy for each other, and to raise a very high heart energy, all is one, that kind of thing. in being in very strong gratitude, appreciation, praise of the universe type of a state of mind. And we go to the dice tables reserved just for us, and when the shooter gets the dice in their hand, we all send energy almost like a healing circle to them. And we have targets that we've set ahead of time, and we've had great results being able to hit those targets repeatedly to a place by chance that's just off the charts. And then slot machines also are amenable, so I sat down one day and wanted to get a royal flush in hearts as a proof that the heart energy is so powerful and important. And a bunch of people found me, and I said, oh, come on, sit down, I'll teach you how to play. And second pull, maybe third pull, I got my royal flush in hearts, which is 160,000 to 1 by chance, and $5 bet paid over $4,000, which is nice. And you get that verification very quickly in Vegas. If you're in greed, fear, and ego, they are happy to take your money, moment by moment. If you go into wide open heart space and trust and be very grounded, connecting with spirit, they'll be happy to reward you with money very quickly. And so it's a psychological conditioning toward a more enlightened way of living. So when people leave that workshop, often they go home, and relationships, businesses, career, health, all of those things, they find shift very dramatically in a positive direction now that they've been trained. Because in life, often feedback is slow. You know, if I wanted to look for a soulmate or something like that, it could take me a year, and I don't know if I'm doing my meditations right, my visualizations or what. Right. And if I was thinking negatively, I might get away with that for weeks before I got a cold or some negative happened. So we don't link up our thoughts and our emotions to the results very easily. Vegas is great at doing that within seconds, and so that's why it was a good bit of the initial learning I did on this. Since then I developed the Sync Creation program we mentioned, and other things so people don't have to go to casinos if they don't want to learn this. But it's a pretty good training ground out there.
You said something pretty profound there, because you're talking about the heart, and that didn't even occur to me until just now. It just really sank in that we're in a casino and we're going out there, but if we go out with the intention of I want to make money, I want to hit it big, then they're going to be very willing to take your money. In other words, we go with greed in our heart. But if we go out there with an open heart and centered and full of abundance in our mind and love, then that brings a different result. And we can take that in almost every aspect of your life.
That's true. You see that in business. I asked the dealers out there, what is true of all the superstitions, that involve, and gamblers have superstitions. And they said the only thing we see true all the time is scared money loses. And by that they mean when your fear is greater than your desire, and that's true, if you fear rejection more than finding your soulmate, if you fear unemployment more than you desire to find the ideal job for you in the universe, that fear will operate as the stronger pull. And so we find, when people are 60% in fear and 40% in hope or desire, usually negatives will happen. If they get 60% desire, 40% fear, things might come in slowly with a lot of glitches. If you get up to 90% desire and clear intent and only 10% fear, then that's when the magic happens and things happen quickly and even better than we could expect.
Yeah, and that's just and I think that's one of the hardest things for us to learn. I mean, that's why when I was telling you about what the results of Liquid Luck, because if that would have happened a couple of years ago with me, if I would have lost a contract or I would have ended earlier or lost a job, I would have went into fear. I would have been, how am I going to do this? So then I would have went into, well, I can do this, I can do that. My mind wouldn't have slowed down enough to look at all the possibilities, so I would have missed a bunch of stuff too.
Yes, and we have to be compassionate to that. We're talking about something that's pretty simple but not easy. If you have a family with 3 kids and you lose your job, it's pretty tough not to go into fear. And and yet now we do have technologies and knowledge that can help you not go in that way, and to actually use that as a great opportunity to end up in an even better position than before that job was lost. But if you don't apply yourself, you'll go spiraling,
Right. And I found the difference between now and maybe a couple of years ago is I had healing clients call me, life coaching clients call me, and so, I've had what I needed. And so I find that absolutely phenomenal that, I've even found over my, nearly 16 years of studying is that when I've gone into greed, as you were talking about earlier, when I've done it just for money, because I used to work as a psychic and I did it just for money, that lasted very short, maybe a year or two, and then it seemed to fall apart. Yeah. When I went into the intention of wanting to really genuinely help somebody and be in the heart, I found that, yes, I got financial compensation, but I also found an abundance of tremendously more than that. I mean, wonderful connections with people, loving friends. I found a good community around me. I actually had an experience because I was a mortgage broker, and my credit went down because what happened to the mortgage industry. My income went drastically down, and so years later, I had the opportunity to pay off some debt, but I had to do it in 1 month, so it was going to eat into my disposable income. And I just went into it and I said, well, here we go, leap of faith. It was interesting to watch how the energy around me took care of me during that month. People that I had given to freely from the heart came and helped me during that month because I took this risk. And then, of course, something from my past got to be taken care of. And what I learned from that, I gained from that, is that if you take a leap of faith and you're in your heart, 9 times out of 10, like you were saying, 90%, we find the universe just it takes care of you. Whatever you want to refer to it. So.
Yeah, and again, even it's okay to say, wow, some money would really be nice, but it's done in an atmosphere of gratitude, praise, knowing that you already are abundant, and that extra money is the cherry on top of the sundae. So you're not going in feeling lack. If you go into a casino or into a business adventure, try to invest in stocks, whatever it is, feeling lack and feeling fear, you're likely to get screwed in the vernacular. And it's not that the universe is doing that or the other person, but you're creating another lesson about that. So I have right on my wall a saying that I had inscribed in wood that says, fear is expensive, love is priceless, choose wisely. Because as we mentioned, it can be tempting to choose that fear base, but if you're in a different place, and one very powerful way to be out of that is what you mentioned, to focus on how can I benefit others? What could I bring out right now that the universe will be delighted to have in reality to help people? Then you get that universe cooperating with you.
Yeah, and it starts to just really respond, and you get very enriching relationships. I mean, I'm using my life here because it's I think it's very beneficial to what you're talking about, and I like the listeners to hear it while they're listening. They're sitting out there trying to compare themselves. I found a lot of times we go into comparisons and say, well, I couldn't do that, or they can do that, or whatever. But we're talking about everyday people here. Everybody out there can use these principles that you're talking about in your book and in your liquid luck meditation, and they can drastically and dramatically change their life and heal. And really, even though the Inner Vegas book is a very healing book, because they're learning to live from the heart and go with that, but also make balanced decisions and be just discernful. So I think that's through the heart. And I just think that that's something very important for people to hear.
Yeah, I would reinforce that. You don't have to be a saint. You don't have to be extra talented. It's just kind of a question of looking at things a little differently and applying a little bit different energy, and you get a very different result. And you know, this is not to deny some things can take more to clear. You might need a coach. You might need something like the home study course. If there's been a strongly negative pattern going on, maybe even for generations in your family. But it makes sense to start with something easy, see if it works for you, and it might just be, you don't have to go much further than that to begin to see results.
Yeah. I was reading a book recently, and the gentleman in there said, with constant spiritual practice, in other words, constantly going and working with your inner world, we gradually, we start to chip away the layers, and we really find a deeper happiness than we could ever imagine. And the more happy we get, the more the world just manifests, because it's exactly what we're talking about. If I am always upset or I have something to complain about, the universe is going to bring me, the energy is always going to bring me something to complain about.
Yeah.
My dogs were one of my greatest teachers, because I had a Rottweiler that years ago that had passed away of old age, and I wanted to get another one. And so what I got was a Rottweiler that was dumped in the forest, and one of my clients found him. And so we had this very insecure dog with a breed that had a nature to want to protect anyways. And so he was about 6 months old and already 80 pounds. So I thought to myself, if I don't get a control on this dog, he's going to be out of control. Well, what I learned is the nicer I became with him, but I guess the word to put it is that I still had to speak my truth and hold him accountable and give him structure, but loving. Mm-hmm. The more he was responding to me. If I yelled at him because he wasn't listening, he would lock in his muscles and not move. And if you've ever tried to move a 125-pound dog with his muscles locked, it's not that easy.
No. I had a Labradoodle, and she wasn't big like that, but she was fast. And like if you said, "Come here," she just stayed 20 feet away and look at you. And if you try to chase, you know who would win that chase. They can be very good trainers. And in some ways, jokingly but not jokingly, I say to people, I wish you would treat yourself like a dog, because most people will treat their dog better than they treat themselves. Positive for praising, rewards for good behavior, letting yourself take a nap once in a while, play in new environments, the kind of things that often we say, gee, I'd like to, give my dog this opportunity. We forget to even give that basic amount to ourselves.
Yeah. Well, even our self-talk, too, I found that I call, I had a habit because I was working with a lot of younger people in their, teens up into their late 20s, and I was referring to them as honey and darling and sweetie and all that kind of stuff. And one of my friends said to me, if you gave yourself the same kind of love that you give all of those kids that you mentor, your life would probably change. So I started in my inner world referring to myself as sweetie, honey, darling, and that inner voice that wants to scream and treat me badly inside, I'd say, I love you. Mm-hmm. In the same way I would talk to the teenager that would be screaming and yelling and upset, I would do the same thing to myself. And they were right. My inner world just went into peace, because what it was screaming for love. Yeah. And so it really changed a tremendous amount, that self-talk inside. So you're absolutely right, because I treat my dog wonderfully. Matter of fact, when I do the show, he sleeps on his feather bed next to me.
Uh-huh.
And
yeah, that's good. So I use phrases like, even though I even though I screwed up today in whatever way I did, I completely love and accept myself. And it's a powerful thing to do. And you begin to love others more as well. I think you can only go a certain amount of distance loving others before you have to start really loving yourself to move that along. And one of the things that's been going on, Jeremy, for me, is years ago, people would come to the Vegas Adventure or buy Sync Creation Home Study saying, I want to create abundance for myself. Now often they show up and say, I'd like to do this because I want it to become even more powerful to help my community. And they're moving from that individual, egotistical orientation more into let me benefit myself, but also those around me.
Yeah, because when we give out to them, to the community, we're all in oneness anyways, and it just blossoms from there. Mm-hmm. So beautiful. You know, it's interesting because you mentioned even though I did this, I love and accept myself. That's I learned that when I learned how to do EFT, emotional freedom technique. So I would do the tapping, and that is something really profound that you can really shift a lot of things in your inner world. Is with emotional freedom techniques.
Yes, I think there's many methods now out for what I would call healing, and I think they use the same energy of the psychokinesis we've talked about. And one of the things I see they have in common is they seem to have you put out a pattern of something new, something better, and then move out of conventional time-space reality, basically by distracting yourself. So in matrix energetics, you have the 2-point technique, and some programs you have the tapping technique. Others you might do something, emotional freedom technique, where you're going ahead and using eye movement desensitization. Different kinds of things that basically, after you've set your intent, you distract yourself from this present moment and let yourself go to something, I think, more infinite, where a new reality can be formed.
Yeah. Now, you have more than just liquid luck and inner Vegas. You also have partners meditation on your site.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned you have a home study course. And you gave a different website that I'm used to. I was going to give your Sync Creation.
The actual main website is Sync Creation, SYNC_CREATION.com. But because that's a little hard, some people make it into Sin Creation or whatever. Also, I've found on radio, rather than writing, it's easiest to just say innervegas.com. That'll take you to the same website, and all those products you mentioned are there. Partners is there because we're talking about raising and keeping a very high, fine energy. And one of the biggest ways our energy is enhanced or drained is through our relationships with people. And so the Partners CD meditation is designed so that you can go into deep meditation and look at your relationship with mother, father, kids, ex-wife, ancestors, bosses that have been troublesome, whoever, and take that relationship to a new level, bringing in new energy for you for your manifestation work.
Yeah. Good stuff. So there's quite a bit. You guys check out Dr. Gallenberger's website. There's plenty of stuff, and you get to learn about Dr. Gallenberger as well. So it's he also has articles in here. One of my favorite ones is the tree.
The abundance tree?
The abundance tree, that's it. I've done that meditation back in August, and it was really what you're teaching people is to be that abundance of all things, if I remember right. I was looking for the actual article on your site.
Yes, that's a fun one. A lot of people like that exercise where we basically make lists of any way we feel less than, like feel guilt, feel lack, feel those things, and imagine that as a pile of dead branches. Each thing listed as an item on the list is a dead branch, and feed it through a wood chipper, making the sound that you would hear from a wood chipper, and then taking all that fresh mulch, that unfrozen energy, and putting it around an abundance tree as a symbol of your abundance. And I've had people see each other when they do this, see other people around the world doing it at the same time, and have great results with that. And that is on the website, as well as lots of articles of tips for manifesting or energy healing, those kind of things.
Yeah. So I wanted to be able to touch in on your website because it has a lot of useful stuff on it. Oftentimes you go to somebody's website and it has a little bit here and there, but you give quite a bit on here for people to even look at. Even if they didn't buy anything, they have articles to learn new things for their journey. So it's something that you guys might want to check out. The website that we gave, and I put the website in the show description here as well. So definitely check it out. So where is it? Where to next? I mean, you just got back from Europe. And,
we had a wonderful workshop, and everybody bent their spoons in Switzerland. And I have plans to go back to Switzerland. I've been invited there for next year, as well as Germany and Canada, and we'll do some sync creation workshops in North Carolina as well. The Inner Vegas Adventure workshops are full for February and March, but the April one, April 26th to 28th, is available right at this point. I'm planning a few more CDs to put out, other exciting projects, and my publisher wants me to do a book on liquid luck because there's been so many stories of success that it would make a good book to put those in there, as well as expanding on why all those principles within the CD works. So I have my creative projects cut out for me for the next foreseeable future, I guess, Jeremy.
You and me both. And then I got diving into something yesterday. I don't know if you ever have this happen. Something will just pique my interest, and for hours I'll get lost in a study, and I'll be like, wow, I never really thought about it that way. And because oftentimes I find this, and I know you can relate to this, is that we'll study one thing, and I find that if I go over and I study something else, I find the difference is just words, and so we get. When I hear your perspective, especially since I interview so many people, when I hear different people's perspectives, I said the vast difference between all of us is that we're saying the same thing slightly differently, and we're just really saying the same thing. We're just using different words.
I think there's some one person will emphasize one thing or another, and like the movie The Secret emphasizes visualizing what you want to create, which I think is a wonderful idea. But that's, in my experience, going to have a little difficulty working if there's already a pattern established of negative around that. So if you had challenges of health or finances or relationship, it's probably going to be that you need something like that abundance tree exercise I mentioned to get rid of the current feelings of lack or things that might be in the way. So, but it's a delight, I agree, to read and see folks say, hey, that's just what I think, and put a different way. I might even listen to myself better.
Well, you mentioned something really profound, and the corporate trainer comes out in me because of adult learning theories and stuff like that, and and I'm thinking about the level of like some person might totally get it watching The Secret. It might work for them, but because their learning style or the way they perceive their paradigm is different. It's exactly what you're saying. Your approach is going to really resonate with them. And it's going to change. It's not that yours. This is what I really like to get out there with people. It's your energy will take you to the right teacher. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And so I found that there's The Secret was very uplifting for me.
Yes.
But it didn't get it for me. My mind wants to get deeper into things, and so. After years and years of studying quantum physics and all that kind of stuff, I finally realized that it was in some ways making it too difficult.
Yes, but
and then
The Secret introduced it, some ideas to some folks who had never thought of those, and other people go, oh, I've known about law of attraction in a long time, And to me, it's more like glasses. One pair of glasses is not right or wrong, but one pair of glasses will help one person see very clearly, and the next person needs a different pair of glasses. So right now we're living at a time, because of worldwide communication, where there's a whole bunch of pairs of glasses out there you can try this, and one is bound to help you see more clearly.
Yeah. Well, there's something I want to talk about in the last few minutes here that just hit me. As I've been, and since you're a therapist, this is a great person to talk to about this. Is that on a conscious level, I've found now that my understanding of this is limited, but to me, if our mind gets a significant amount of trauma, or has been controlled or dominated or something, that can cause what I think therapists would refer to as, that kind of trauma would be a post-traumatic stress, I guess they would call it. So I've found the Native Americans call this Wetiko. It's almost like a psychic psychosis that the consciousness is happening. So I see it in everybody, where people are walking around with these traumas going on, or these programs of trauma, which is kind of like what we're talking about throughout the show. And those programs are running. And so it hit me one day. I was like, wow, is the entire world operating with a slight little bit of PTSD? Now, of course, I'm not a therapist to diagnose that, but my point is that it just kind of you just see almost the tension in people's face as you're walking around, even in the mall or at the grocery store, and then you see their reactions to things, and I'm like, that's because of a flashback or a trauma or something along those lines, maybe on a very small scale. But
I wouldn't pretend to diagnose the entire world, but it is obvious that there's a lot of fear right now. Most of it come by pretty honestly, with financial stresses, etc., in people, right. and fear tends to move us into neurophysiological states that deal with survival, and they are useful for instant response to threat, but not very useful in shifting the overall pattern of your life to something more positive. And that's where these technology-based meditations can come in, other things that can shift that, and even sometimes inspiring movies, will shift people. I think as we all realize that we can create, in this PK area, we've had people raise the energy, the nitrogen content of soil just with their energy. Imagine the world without having to have commercial fertilizer. We've had folks clear lakes of pollution as a group. Things like world peace and much more positive, empowering governments, and all of that can be responsive to group thought. So I think we're at a critical point for people to learn the skills that, regardless of what's going on around them, being very fear-provoking, can they find a way to bop up to the top like we've been talking about and make positive out of it.
Well, because what you're talking about in your stuff is empowering. And so if they are in that fear-based or that victimhood or whatever, they can use your principles or find something that works for them, and they can start healing that and become empowered. So when you're talking about healing a lake, or I know that with PK you can even make seeds grow. That's very empowering. So then you stop being the victim of the government or the world or the environment, and you can actually start empowering yourself to heal not only yourself but the outside world as well. So
yeah,
I think that's
and everything, like you say, is an opportunity. I've had many people in the last few years heal something like a tooth where the doc said you got to go in Monday for a root canal because they don't have the money for the root canal. And so they spend the weekend saying every prayer they know, positively visualizing, etc. And when they go into the endodontist on Monday, he says, "What are you here for? Your tooth is fine." But it was motivated initially by I can't afford this medical treatment. So there's a lot of ways to get quote inspired to see what your real power is.
Yeah, because that becomes the not being a Ford was the catalyst to push them into thinking into a higher consciousness, or empower themselves. So, very cool. So we're down to the last 5 minutes here. Is there anything that you would want to add on? We've covered quite a few topics here, actually. But,
well, I guess again, I'd like people as a takeaway to, at least from my point of view, to realize that we are miracle workers. We're surrounded by miracle, even the miracle of the human hand. And if you can be aware of how you're living in a miraculous world all the time, then the PK, energy healing, winning the slot machine, having liquid luck work in 1 hour, all of those become easier to do because it's just another miracle. And as we all open up to that, being that we're part of a miracle world that we create together, then the larger society problems can shift easily as well. And so just remember how much we're pretty amazing beings. We are a big X point between heaven and earth. We embody both in our hearts. And we can turn this puppy around and make heaven here on earth, from my point of view.
I really believe that. That's the nature of my work, is I know that we can empower ourselves and change this, exactly what you're saying, change this around. Well, Dr. Gallenberger, it's always a pleasure to speak with you and have you on the show, or just speak with you in general. So I'm glad you came on, and I know you're going to be on in the future. So looking forward to hearing about your future projects.
Great.
And hearing about what you're doing. And if you're ever down in Tampa, we should get a cup of coffee.
Okay. My pleasure to be on with you, Jeremy. And I wish everybody a happy holidays that's listening, if they hear this before the time of year that's coming up right now. And I look forward to the next time we get together, either on the radio or in person.
Definitely. Well, you have a blessed day, and I will talk to you soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening, and that was Dr. Joe Gallenberger. It was a wonderful time with him. He is always very much a pleasure to speak with, and I do hope you guys gained something. Definitely check out the websites he was talking about on the show. I am going to post this show on YouTube later on today, and of course you can listen to the archive here on Blog Talk Radio. And then check out, I'm going to be posting his website on my Facebook as well as my blog spot as well. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and we don't have a live show until the first part of January, the second week in January. So everybody have a wonderful Christmas, and thanks for listening. Bye-bye.